But just think about going through all that shit because you don't have the option to jump a fence. Yeah, you can jump.
The fence is like
it was that.
Like, you're just like fucking.
You can't do
like, it. Bro, this is like this comes up like halfway up my thigh. You're telling me I can't just like.
Yeah. So you're forced to go back into the village and do all that shit.
And do a puzzle where you gotta find 3 keys.
Oh.
That make 1 key.
Dude, Resident Evil 4 was scary as hell, man.
It was good though.
Dude.
Ready for the clip?
3, 2, 1. Yo. Back for another episode of you just messed me up there. What, Mofos with a long podcast?
Mofos with a long podcast.
And what movie are we doing today? You get it?
We're doing your mind.
Now we're doing Dune.
We're doing Dune.
Dune.
How you doing?
Oh my god. Dude, I never got into that show.
No.
But that's a story for another day. That was not my type of show. Friends?
I think white people liked it.
I've seen other people like it too. I'm not trying to make it a race thing, but like, it's definitely a generation thing for sure.
I heard it was basically a ripoff of Living Single.
Oh, Living Single was a good show.
But people, like popular culture, doesn't acknowledge Living Single because it was a show.
It was a show.
People with so.
Yeah, I mean, then again, it also came out in the 90s when they had a bunch of heavy hitters too, of shows. So maybe it just wasn't the same level.
I also didn't watch Living Single though.
I've seen a couple episodes.
Yeah.
One of the guys does used to do the voice for Kratos, like in.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like a short black dude that did the voice for Kratos. That's
no, just the fact that he's short.
Oh
like,
yeah.
When you think of Kratos, you think of like some short guy. Like, I play Kratos.
He has a very like deep voice though. But I guess that all has nothing to do with this movie. But yeah, so Dune, this movie is directed by Denis Villeneuve. I think he's a Canadian, French Canadian.
Oh yeah.
And
Oui.
Oh my god. So yeah, I don't know if I'll call him an up and comer director because he's done a couple movies now that kind of big. Sicario, have you seen that?
Yeah, with what's his the one that looks like Brad Pitt with Benicio del Toro.
It looks like Brad Pitt with what?
Brad Pitt with spice thrown on him.
Oh, okay. Spiced up Brad Pitt.
Like spiced up Brad Pitt, yeah.
Oh, Benicio del Toro. Have you ever seen The Usual Suspects?
I haven't.
Oh, okay.
Because you talked about that. And then I also saw like a behind the scenes thing about that.
Oh yeah, okay. That's a good movie to watch. But he has a classic line from that movie because he's like, it's hard to understand him in that movie. I don't know his artistic take on it, but he's barely speaking English. Oh, okay. And there's a scene he's just like, "Hey, flip ya," and then people are like, "What?" He's like, "Hey, flip it for real." I don't know, but that stuck with me since. But yeah, so it's Sicario, Denis Villeneuve directed that with Sicario with Benicio del Toro. He did the sequel to Blade Runner 2049.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. That I love that movie, but it did not do well financially.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Mm-hmm. It's just not a typical like theater movie. Which I kind of consider this movie not a typical theater movie as well.
What, this one?
Mm-hmm. And in some aspects.
I was actually disappointed that I didn't see this one in the theater.
Yeah, same, but
because I watched it on I watched it on a big screen, like a big ass flat screen TV. But I was like, I just knew if I was in the theater, like the bass from the ships and everything would have been hitting harder.
The shots and everything. It definitely seemed like it was meant for IMAX, that's for sure.
Yeah, like I may go. Like I don't know if it's still running.
Yeah, I don't
like,
know.
Is it still doing it theater run?
I know it's going to be in HBO Max for another 10 days.
Oh, okay.
But I
Yeah.
don't know what it's going after that. But yeah, this is I know like I guess we could talk about this later on, but it's the kind of setting up the movie. Yeah, so he directed this movie. This is based on a book. I forgot who wrote it. It's already been attempted before in the 80s.
Yeah.
By David Fincher, but I guess that was even so shit he left because of also like background stuff, production stuff. Yeah, he
artistic differences.
Yeah, there we go. That's the word. And that's iconic for being really bad. I wanted to see it, but I just didn't have the time. And also, I want to thank you too, because it is a different movie. So knowing me, I most likely would have tried to compare it because they share the same name, they share the same source material.
Yeah.
So it's like it's good maybe not for me to watch it because now I could just take this as its own.
Yeah, I have a coworker who used to be your coworker.
Yeah.
Who basically is a fan of the book series. And he said basically the one from the 80s is like it's a rush job. They tried to get the entirety of the first book into a movie, and it was a rush job, not a good representation of the literature, and that just pass it up and just watch this new one.
Okay.
He said they did a much better job adapting, which I can't speak on because I've never read the literature.
Same.
But as a movie, I enjoyed it. And I do think that not having seen the one from the 80s is a good thing because then we'd have an understanding of the story as like a spoiler.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And I'm not seeing a good representation of it. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that I'm gonna go into part 2 not knowing what's gonna happen.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
I mean?
Actually, maybe I shouldn't watch the original because I'm still curious to watch the original. But yeah,
maybe
I
after
should
you
wait.
watch part 2.
Yeah, maybe
but it's gonna be 2 years.
I mean, that's fine. That's because for the Matrix, it didn't take like 2-3 years for the sequel to come out.
I think so, but then
the other one came out like 3 months afterwards, which was so weird to me. But yeah, so with this, I guess we kind of established it. Yeah, it's like a hard sci-fi. That's how I consider it. And my first impression while watching it was Star Wars, but maybe a more mature and kind of like slower pace. Star Wars at first.
Yeah.
Then stuff started happening to the point that I could just basically separate it from Star Wars and just kind of take it as its own universe and stuff like that. But yeah, so we're introduced to what's the character's name? Paul. Paul Atreides. And he's having visions about the Fremen people in the desert. And yeah, we're introduced to him.
How'd you pronounce it?
The Fremen, right?
The Fremen, yeah. You said the Freeman. I just thought of Morgan Freeman.
Oh, for real? Imagine talking about Morgan Freeman too. What's your name there, son? Something like that. You see the worms, though. Yeah. But yeah, the Fremen people. Yeah, we also see like he's kind of like a heir to a throne. Kind of comes from like a background with what's that? The type of family? A royal family. There we go.
Yeah.
And we're introduced to his father, Leto, played by Oscar Isaac. What's his name? Paul is played by Timothy. I'm going to pronounce his name. Chalamet or something like that? Yeah. I'm sorry if I butchered that name.
Champagne.
Then his mom, Jessica. Then the trainer, played by Josh Brolin. Basically, I mean, at this point, it's just Thanos now. Gurney? The trainer is called Gurney. And Duncan Idaho, which is such a normal last name for a movie like this. Yeah, it's played by, what's the guy from Aquaman? I forgot his name.
Jason Momoa.
Yeah, the big ass dude. So, yeah, so we just kind of see like he's having visions. He's kind of like...
Is it Idaho or Idaho?
Huh? Oh my God. You go. Oh my God. But you know what's another thing his name reminded me of? Is Point Break. because that guy in that movie was called Johnny Utah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that Duncan, Idaho, and Johnny Utah. Yeah, some of those like whack ass states, dude. But hey, if you're watching from Idaho and Utah, you know. I'm not gonna apologize for that. You know the states is whacked.
Yeah.
What is there to do in Idaho?
Uh,
Oh yeah, you've been to Idaho. No, you've been to Utah.
I lived in Utah for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's oh man. Because
Yes.
the area code over there is like it's either 810 or whatever, and there was some like fucking. I went to a Chief Keef show, and they had like a local opener, and like the rapper, like it was like a rap duo, and they swore they were like the hardest motherfuckers on the planet.
Oh yeah.
And they were like, motherfuckers up at 810.
Yeah.
I was like, no,
doesn't even sound hard.
No one's
man.
repping the 810, bro.
Oh,
like, get
that
the
doesn't even
fuck
sound
out of
hard,
here.
dude. 810. Oh my god. At least, yeah, but yeah. So we see Paul is kind of like having visions, trying to like maybe learning his powers with the voice thing that they kind of introduced early on in the movie. Because when we're introduced to him, we see him with his mom, and he's like working on the voice with her, but he's still kind of practicing.
Yeah.
And I guess this is going to a point of mine that I really enjoy from the movie, and this is where I kind of got the relation to Star Wars. They both like the original Star Wars, right? When it started, Luke has been living in that universe, so he doesn't ask like simple shit just to expose, just for exposition for the audience, because he lives there, so that's normal to him.
Right.
So in this movie, we kind of just dropped into the middle of stuff happening, and there's nobody there asking like, "But what does this mean?" Because that's what they know, right? That's what we kind of like start in the middle of stuff happening, and it goes from there. So, what were your first impression?
I like to touch on the voice thing. It seems right off the bat that he's kind of learning something that's considered to be, I guess, forbidden knowledge for him.
Yeah.
That not everyone is supposed to know this. There's an order, and if you're in that order, you're supposed to know how to use the voice or whatever. And I'm sure they have other tactics or something that they're known for. But yeah, so I liked it right off the bat. I liked the introduction to the character. I liked the way Oscar Isaac played
Leto?
his father.
Right.
I liked the look. The look of the film. Like it's hard to tell how much is set and how much is CGI, but I think that's a good thing that they blend so well. That you can't really tell where one ends and one begins, because a lot of movies will do that. They'll do a mix, like a small portion is the set and then the rest is CGI, and just you can really tell the difference between the two. But this one,
I thought you guys were saying, sorry to cut you off, but you and Darby mentioned this on another episode, the Cruella, where you said like some of the backgrounds you could tell was CGI, like in the castle or
and it was like really obvious. This one definitely not obvious, and it just kind of like looks like a continuation of the set as opposed to something that was just slapped in there later with computers. Obviously it was, but you can't tell, and that's fantastic on my job. It's like you got people who could really do some animation to come in here, like not just animation, but like modeling and make it look legit. So, shout out to the artists who worked on the movie, the 3D artists, because it looks fantastic.
I can see this also, like how you said, maybe they definitely went maybe to shoot on location. I have to look up for more information, but like the desert scene, maybe they went to like Africa or something like that, because you could shoot there. And this movie, from the look, and you mentioned this earlier, you wish you saw in theaters, there's a lot of like good shots, good cinematography, and I really like the universe. And this is why I call it hard sci-fi, because like, even though it's sci-fi, right, it seems so gritty and grounded that it seems somewhat realistic,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to the point like, yeah, it's just like I can see how this could be the future, and I really liked how there's the sci-fi elements. They didn't do any exposition lines of like, oh, how does this work? You just kind of see how it works, and you're like, okay, that makes sense for this universe. And I
Mm-hmm.
could give some example like one of the ships, like the dragonfly looking ship,
Mm-hmm.
like when it was taking off, you just kind of see it flapping, so you could kind of get the mechanics.
It's like called a thopter or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
a thumper or something, something like that. No, thumper is I guess the stuff that was hitting the ground for the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I forgot what it was called. But just
I
seeing
think
how
it was a thopter.
okay, yeah, but seeing how like they just show the mechanics of how the wings work,
Uh-huh.
then you could just kind of like use your imagination to be like, okay, I can see how this works in this universe, you know. And the scene that definitely got it for me, that point for me was it was a very like it was like maybe 5 seconds long, but for me it was like I am so glad they showed that scene. It was when they went to that desert planet Arrakis,
Mm-hmm.
which I guess we could explain later, but like they were showing something picking up one of those things to dig up the sand. I mean the spice,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like some ship that attaches to the machine. Then it blows like a balloon. Then it lifts it up into the air.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, just seeing them show how that works, I was like, I'm so glad because it added weight to the universe. It added weight to like the scene, and it just kind of like it's still sci-fi, but I was like, oh, that makes sense, you know, in this context of the movie I'm watching.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really amazed by all that stuff, and
It's not just like, oh, it flies. Trust
yeah,
us.
yeah,
Trust us, it
yeah,
flies.
you know, yeah, yeah.
You don't need to know how it flies, but it flies.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
like-
You know, and I just show, and to me, I'm just so glad they didn't have somebody explain how that works. Just kind of show you how it works
Mhm.
in a small scene, and I was like, I really like that. More like showing, not telling.
Yeah, to go back to the story elements, I think that they do a lot of that very well, because they throw you kind of into this conflict.
Yeah.
With the
Emperor?
it's the well, not the emperor directly.
Mhm.
The emperor is kind of it seems that he's chosen a side in a conflict. Because the Atreides is the house that we follow.
Yes.
Do you remember the name of the people who reigned over Arrakis before?
Before the Fremen.
Well, the Fremen are the natives.
Yeah.
But there was kind of like a colonizer faction there before it was given to Atreides.
Yeah, I forgot the name, but did it belong to the Baron, or
yeah, I believe it was the Baron.
yeah, I forgot the name of that group.
Yeah, but yeah, the Baron's group.
Mm-hmm.
And the Emperor, it seems, kind of did this knowing that it would cause conflict between House Atreides and the Baron. Yeah, pretty much. So that they didn't need to explain why that would cause tension. Like they've kind of already set up the universe in a way that's just like, okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that stuff's already happening.
They didn't really. They give us background on the Fremen only to kind of point out that, like, hey, they know this land tactically.
That's the
they know how to survive here. They'll have a tactical advantage over us. Like, yeah, we're their oppressors, but they're not going to mess with us unless we go into their territory.
Yeah.
And then we even see, like, because the spice is a very valuable commodity in their universe, but kind of this, like, we're not going to come in here and just be all arrogant about the way that we're going to go about it. Yeah, we're here. You probably don't like that we're here. But we're not going to mess with you.
Yeah.
And I can't promise we won't have any reason to go out there, but we're not going to hunt you.
Mm-hmm.
We're not assholes. We have a job to do. We're going to mind the spice, but we're going to be like as we're going to do our best to be cordial about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, going to the story, it seems very I guess maybe not comparing, but like kind of like the conspiracies and shit that happens like in the Lion King, you know, the royal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of had that element to it too, you know, like two maybe backgrounds going. I mean, two factions going against each other, but like they're kind of related to, and there's like plans, seeds, and stuff happening in the background to like overthrow each other. Maybe not Lion King, like Shakespearean type shit that's happening in the background. And yeah, like you said, they do a good job of like showing that too, even though we're dropped in the middle of it. They do a good job of like kind of letting you know what's happening here and there. Yeah, I really like yeah, that's another thing that I found fascinating is like it's very sci-fi, but it's also kind of Game of Thrones-ish. You know, and I like that blend.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because kind of like Game of Thrones, we've seen this kind of feel, this kind of like houses and kingdoms at war with each other. But I think we see a lot of it kind of thrown into the past or more like fantastical settings.
Yeah, yeah.
And to bring that kind of feel
elements,
into a sci-fi is really interesting. And I think it works.
Yeah, I think so too.
There's a lot to talk about with this movie, to be honest. There's a lot of like really good stuff. This may be a bad way to start off the episode, but like I just don't have a lot of bad things to say about the movie, to be honest.
Yeah, like the same with me. Like my fear when I first was about to watch it, going back from the the original version and seeing the runtime, I was kind of intimidated. I was like, oh, hopefully this isn't going to be boring, you know. And watching it the whole time, I was engrossed from beginning to end. Yes, there are some slow parts when I watched it again. I was like, okay, maybe you could kind of shave a couple of minutes towards the third act, kind of shave it down. But still, I still think it was an engrossing movie to watch. And I really like how, like I said, when I first started watching it, I was like thinking Star Wars. Then by the middle, I was just not even thinking about that at all. Because the story was so engrossing and what was happening was so engrossing. And the guy, Denis, like, he knows... He kind of does that Breaking Bad stuff of like, it's slow pace, but when shit happens, it has so much impact, you know, that it just kind of sticks with you.
Yeah.
And I really like that. Like the first couple, maybe the first act was mostly kind of like set up, but there was some action scenes here and there, like maybe him training with was it Gurney, and that was kind of like an action scene, and you also kind of see how the technology works through each scene.
Yeah, without them explaining it. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They're like, it's kind of like an overshield.
Yeah, yeah.
And they don't have to explain it. They just show
because that's
us.
what they know. Yeah, I mean that's what they've been doing.
Right,
so nobody's going to ask like, what does this do? Like you've been doing this for years now. Like you should know. But we kind of see it and because we see it in multiple scenes, we kind of get like how it works. You know, and I really like that stuff. But yeah, with the story, and they go to the desert planet Arrakis, and we're also introduced to the Baron and his side. And the Baron, I really liked his first like introduction. And for me, like I think growing up watching like a lot of action movies, you always hear me complain about villains and they're not looking strong and shit like that. It's because like in a story, we kind of know that the good guy is going to win most of the time. So sometimes you do a good job setting up your bad guy so that they could pose that threats. Even though they still might lose, but just them posing that threats that you want to see how the good guys are going to overcome, it holds a lot of weight to me. So with the Baron, seeing how he is, I think he was a good character. I forgot the guy who portrayed him. He looked familiar. I just can't see through like the makeup and everything.
Yeah.
But they do a good job of making that guy intimidating. Like the first shot is just like him from the back just talking. I was like, oh man, this guy looks like he means business, you know.
And then when that motherfucker like
like levitates and shit.
Yeah. Just like whoa.
Yeah, like the scene when he was talking to the witch and one of his lackeys, and he's talking about like the Arrakis, the planets, and he's like floating as he's talking it, and his voice just like carries, and it just looks so intimidating, you know?
Yeah.
It looks very scary. Like, okay, this guy looks like nobody to fuck with, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and then I see the character design for the first one.
Oh, the original one.
I was like, oh yeah,
that's yeah. I guess maybe in the book he was supposed to look even more grotesque, with like pimples and shit going out of his body.
Yeah,
but maybe I think with the actions that happened in this movie, maybe in a sequel we might see that because they explained towards the ending like he's still healing from what happened.
Right.
But yeah, speaking about like what other aspects did you like about the movie?
About the movie, I really liked a lot of the costumes.
Oh, okay.
I thought that they were put together well enough that I believed that they were from the future, without them being like head ass.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like over the top techie type shit, or
yeah, like just I don't know, because they live in well, they're going to Arrakis, which is kind of like a grittier world. So like they have their daytime, you know, like up in the house, like looking fancy.
Yeah, like the royal
attire.
royal attire.
But then when you go to Arrakis, like that doesn't make sense. So
yeah.
like the suits that they wear on Arrakis are more like they're you can tell they're from like suits from the future, but they're not like clean cut like they're going into Tron.
That's true.
So like it just fit the costumes,
the
fit
atmosphere, and then
exactly. Yeah, they fit the atmosphere of wherever they were really well. So like when they are in like kind of the palaces and held up, like they're wearing nicer stuff. Just everything kind of fits the atmosphere as far as that. Again, the sets looked fantastic. I liked a lot of the technology that they got brought in. I'll say the first time like that overshield thing was thrown on, I didn't necessarily grasp what was happening right away. But as soon as, because I think the first time we're introduced to it is when they are training.
Yeah, training.
And so as they start utilizing it in the training, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I think like the first time you see it, he just taps it on it and it like starts buzzing, and I'm like, I don't know that I get it yet. And then they start training, and then I'm like, okay, I get it.
I definitely understood it when I guess towards the middle when the siege was happening, and Leto gets shot with like that pin. And it's not like piercing through the shield. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what's happening. You know, because during that scene when he was training with Gurney, Paul was training with Gurney. Stuff was happening so fast, I still wasn't able to grasp kind of like the hit detection kind of how it was working. But like when I saw the stuff like piercing through Leto's shield, I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense now. Or like when they shot like the bomb through the ships and you see it piercing through the shield. Then it explodes. I was like, oh, that's really cool.
And like, so the hit detection. Yeah. That's awesome. So like, not necessarily that something like is going to penetrate, but something is in danger of penetrating, and it goes from like blue to red.
Yeah.
That
and it's like vibrating too.
Yeah, that looked awesome. And then just also gives us the knowledge that like, hey, these things aren't impenetrable. They can be penetrated.
Kind of Mario Halo though, like you're getting shot and your shit's turning red, you know.
Yeah,
like that video game stuff. Oh yeah, so I'm going.
Oh no, yeah. So just stuff like that. The introduction to technology. I really liked what is it called? The Order, like basically the witches.
Oh
what
yeah,
they call them.
I forgot what they called the. Was his mom a specific name, like Bia something? They kept referring to her as that, but I don't know if that was like the group she was in.
It was the group. It was the something, the Order of something. It started with a B.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I could look that up as you talk.
So they're kind of like a.
We definitely need a Jamie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy, pull that up.
Jimmy, pull it up.
But yeah, go on.
No, yeah. But yeah, no, just the like the different factions, and we've even got like the witch faction, which is kind of like a supernatural elements, which is interesting to kind of throw into a sci-fi story. You know what I'm saying? And I guess that credit goes more towards the author than it does anyone who really worked on the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, just
Bene Gesserit?
the what?
This?
Oh yeah, the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. So they're kind of like the witch faction. Yeah.
Sounds like an RPG.
Yeah. So it's crazy. Because they're not necessarily. I don't know if you'd call them like a faction. Actually, now that I think about it, because you can belong to a household and then still belong to like the Bene Gesserit.
Well, kind of like Jessica, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, because she's kind of the mistress of.
Yeah, the concubine of Leto.
Yeah, exactly.
But even though it seems like the Bene Gesserit does not really approve, because remember they were kind of like talking to the Baron, the head, and she's like, "Oh, you know that could happen. You could let whatever happened to Leto and the rest, but leave Jessica and her son alone because they belong to us."
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it seems like they don't really. They still stick with themselves, and they don't really consider like the whole royal stuff. Maybe like the same. They don't have the same respect for it.
Yeah, it seems like they have.
Yeah, but no agenda going off.
Exactly, that's what I was gonna say. They have their own agenda.
Because they're trying to resurrect some person, right? The one.
They're all about the. It seems like the presence of the one, and it looks like. Your boy Paul is it?
Yeah. That's such a normal last name for this movie.
Yo, Paul.
Yeah, hey, Paul.
Yeah, no, you'd think he'd have something else.
Yeah, I was also thinking. Sorry to cut you off your point, but I was thinking in Star Wars how they have some sci-fi ass name like Obi-Wan Kenobi or Anakin or Yoda, and here's like, hey Paul. Hey Jessica, hey Duncan, Idaho. You know, it's just so normal. It's funny to see like normal names in a universe like this where there's like shit happening. But then you have people like, what was it, Rabat or something, or Rahat, or the guy played by Batista. I forgot his name.
Yeah, I can't remember his name either.
Yeah, he has like a sci-fi-ish that name, and other people do too.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were speaking about the different factions and the different groups.
Oh yeah. Like they kind of seem like they're doing their own thing, and then also it seems like some of the Fremen.
Yeah, for sure.
Believe in the kind of the presence of the one as well, because once.
Sorry, go on. I'm cutting you off.
No, it's all good. Like because once we see their presence on Arrakis, we see them kind of. Looking to Paul, as if he is the one. He's like the chosen one.
Paul was annoying, dude. Like I could see where he was at because he seemed kind of confusing questions a lot too. But like you could tell, even his mom was annoyed at him, especially when they landed at the Arrakis planet because she's trying to explain because she believes in it, you know. So she grew up and she's trying to like explain to her son like what the importance, and he's just like. Yeah, they just say that because they were fed that or something like that, and you can even see his mom's face, like, man, this motherfucker here, man, like this guy would not listen, you know, like because he just questioned everything. But we see maybe that's also kind of his arc too, like kind of maybe being dismissal, but as time goes on, he starts accepting his role, in the whole war and stuff coming up.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if someone came and told me like. You're the savior of the people or whatever. Like I'd be like, bro, what are you smoking?
Yeah, I'll be like, oh, it's like the Matrix, you know.
Like, here's $1.
Oh my god, like, the one you give him. The one. Yeah. But yeah, I can see his. It definitely seems like that's going to be his hero's journey of accepting his role. In the whole like the war that's happening, because even in the beginning when he's talking to Leto, he's kind of reluctant.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't seem like he really cares about that stuff, but he seems to care a lot about the Fremen, which is something else I was going to say. There's some foreshadowing that happens that I also like too. That in the movie, you see him studying the Fremen a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So when he knows all this, when they're surviving the last act,
Mm-hmm.
and he's doing all this stuff, you can see like he's been studying it in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That it would make sense why he knows it at the end. It's not because he's just the one. Maybe because the visions he's been having
Mm-hmm.
has forced him to actually try to learn about the culture and those people, and maybe because he knows they're about to go live there too, so maybe he wants to like actually know about the culture. Yeah, like the culture and how people just kind of get around. But yeah, in a early beginning, you see him watching a video of how the Fremen walk through the desert.
Mm-hmm.
Then later on in the movie, when they're doing it, it makes sense because you kind of see him watching it, so it makes sense how he has that knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because he just has some powers. And I didn't even notice that until I watched it a second time. The first time it was there, but it just kind of went through my. I didn't think about it. Then when I saw it the second time, I was like, oh, okay, they were setting up how he would know this later on,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that was cool.
The one thing that they did bring up that he shouldn't have known, even if looking through the library or looking up into from it, is the way that the Fremen have like a particular style that they or a way of doing their suits.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I guess outsiders wouldn't know, but to them they have the advantage of like, we live on this planet and this is the most optimal way to do the suits, or it has something to do with the boots.
Yeah, the boots, like the way he strapped his boots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was through the vision. Because
Possibly.
remember in the vision, he also has the suit on too already,
Mm-hmm.
so you maybe kind of see. But yeah,
I'll say the vision and his ability to kind of like have those visions confuses me later on with some of the stuff that goes
yeah,
on.
I was about to bring that up too. I was just about to say like some of my negatives
Mm-hmm.
may have been the vision because it's very jarring
Mm-hmm.
and it confused me, and it confused me even more on my second viewing because I guess we're gonna have to see the sequel, and we're already talking about spoiler shit. But like one of the guys he kept seeing in that vision, Jameis, the black dude.
Mm-hmm.
In the ending, he fights him,
Mm-hmm.
and he possibly kills him.
Yeah.
But in the visions, he's been helping him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, is Jamie still alive? You know? I didn't even notice that was Jamie until my second viewing. Because my second viewing, I was like, oh, this dude looks and sounds exactly like that guy he fights at the end. Then the subtitles comes up as, in the vision, as Jameis. Then the ending, that's the same guy. And I was like, but how's that guy in his vision if he killed him? So, but I wonder if that's something that's going to come in the sequel.
Yeah, I think it is actually.
Mm-hmm.
I got told a spoiler that I wish I hadn't gotten told by that same coworker who.
Oh, okay. Into the series.
Yeah, he just kind of let something slip that I'm like, dang it, I would have really liked to go into part 2 without knowing that. He's just excited because he's really,
He's into the book stuff.
yeah. And he's an older guy, so he's like read all of them.
All the books.
Yeah. But yeah, so now remembering that conversation, the visions make sense, but I don't want to say
why. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess
just because it's a spoiler, I wish I hadn't heard. You know what I mean?
Okay. We'll see in the sequel then.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about the positives. What are some, if you could think of any?
The positives.
Negatives. Some my bad. Negatives,
some negatives of this movie. I will say it's very long.
Yeah.
It is very long. But kind of to the point that you were saying, like it does drag a little bit, but it rewards you for sticking through it. And although there are moments that are more important than others, it's not necessarily that there's just useless filler. They've got a lot of content from the book that they're trying to fit into a movie. So much so that they have to break it into two parts.
Yeah.
A lot of people complained about the ending being abrupt, but I don't necessarily agree. I didn't
Yeah, I
have
don't
a
think so.
problem with where it ended.
Yeah, I don't think so as well. Sorry, go on. I feel like.
Oh no,
Yeah.
you're good.
Yeah, like when I was seeing early reviews about this movie, people
Mhm.
complain like I think about the ending in the last act, and seeing it again, that's going to be my major complaints. Is the last act. The first viewing, I had no problems with the last act actually, because right when it was about to get too much, it ends. I was like, oh, perfect, you know, because right when I was like, okay, it's my start to get kind of boring. Then it just ends like, okay, I can't wait to see a sequel now, you know, because it ends like at a good spot. Then watching it again, I was like, okay, the last act you could shave, maybe not like cut the whole thing, but you can make the process faster. But I do see why they kept it the way they did because it makes that journey that they took at the last act, it makes it even more worthwhile, you know, because you kind of see it. Um, and the ending, I had no problem with. Like, I feel like the ending ended exactly where it needed to end, so that when you see the sequel, it could pick up at a good spot. Because at first, when I was watching it again, I was like, you know, I could cut some of these parts off, and I was like, should I have just, you know, should they have just cut out the last maybe 14 minutes after the whole siege? And I'd be like, no, that's even more abrupt, you know. Then I was like, no, you need where it ended. You need that. You need that because now it shows that Paul has accepted that his journey is going to take him to be with the Fremen and into the desert. So now when the sequel starts, he starts, you know, with those people. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. So I didn't understand the complaints about the ending at all. And another plus points for me with the ending was I don't know about you. I know the Baron was supposed to be like the big antagonist of this movie. For me, the biggest two antagonists was remember I forgot the doctor, the Fremen doctor, the woman that showed them kind of like the spice and everything, like the planets. Uh, After the siege, she was about to ghost ride the worm because she like called the worm and she was about to like she brought up these things like it looked like she was about to ride it. I was excited to see it. Then they killed her. Then I was like, "Oh, you motherfuckers, man! Like, like I just want to see her ride the worm." Then at the ending, you see somebody riding the worm. I was so happy to see that because I was so excited to see that the whole movie. I didn't even know that was possible until she brought out like those things that looks like they're attached to the worm.
I'll have to go back and see because I actually didn't see anyone writing.
Oh, really? At the ending?
Is it in the background?
No, like it's funny because you can kind of see it too when Paul is having visions about the Fremen versus like the other faction. You can kind of see that the worm attacking people. Most likely somebody was riding it. But at the very end, right before they kind of walk into like wherever they're walking and end credit comes, you see a guy riding the worm. Then Paul says like desert power, because like his dad said desert power earlier in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you see it. You see somebody. I don't know if it's a guy or a woman, but you see somebody riding the worm. Then it cuts back to Paul and he says like desert power. It was really cool. I'll show you after this is over.
Okay.
Or you can even like splice it here. You know. Yeah. You know, with your cool editing skills that you have now.
Oh, I don't. I don't know if I'll be able to.
Oh, we might get striked.
Yeah, that's
the
what
whole
I'm saying.
channel.
That's why if you're wondering why we don't show it in the movies, like, you know, I'm just trying not to get copyrighted.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe if we throw like a border around it or don't show it full screen. I don't know.
Like the bootleg will have somebody walking from the screen. Yeah, like the bootleg version.
But carrying a mountain bike.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Oh Lord.
Those OG bootlegs, man.
Hell yeah.
But yeah. So my complaint would be the pacing for the last act, and I would say, as much as I love this movie, I don't know if it's a movie I could recommend to anybody. Unfortunately, because I can see somebody who's really into Star Wars, telling like, oh, you know, it's sci-fi, has like kind of like some opera shit going on in a way. Then I can see them watching. It's like, nah, this is way slower than fucking Star Wars, and they'll kind of just hop out of it, you know, because it's not as fast paced as like a Star Wars.
True.
Or they might come in kind of confused and maybe feel intimidated by all the info. So I feel like if you're really into sci-fi, like hard sci-fi, this is the movie for you.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I see what you're saying now.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of my friends aren't into a lot of really hard sci-fi.
Yeah.
So I don't. Yeah. Now that you're saying that, and I'm like really thinking about it, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know who I would tell about this movie because like anyone who would have like had any interest in this movie has probably already gone to see it
Yeah, yeah.
or plans to see it,
Mm-hmm.
knows about it. Yeah. So as far as like recommending goes, yeah, I see what you're saying. Um, one of my problems, and maybe this will get cleared up by part 2, was the way that like Zendaya was such a big part of the marketing
Oh yeah.
to not have played that big of a role in this movie. Like, I get it, big name, she's doing a lot of things, so you want to use her for the marketing, but I thought it was kind of not false advertising. She's in the movie.
Yeah, but not as much as you think.
Yeah, for as much as they put her in the marketing, you would think she was a much bigger part of this first film. I'm sure she becomes like a very focal character in the second one. But like just in this one, it's like we see her in the visions.
Yeah.
We see her at the end kind of like being
the
an
last
aid.
like 30 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of helping along the journey. But yeah, that's just my big thing with it.
See, that's one thing too. Is like it's smart marketing, like how you.
That's true.
It's
It
very
is smart.
Yeah, but that's something I feel like would send off people that not into this type of movie. Like I was saying, people like I won't recommend this movie for, but they see Zendaya and like how you say she's kind of like a mainstream actress right now. She's kind of successful in different stuff, Marvel, and the TV show Euphoria. So they come in like, oh, I can't wait to see my girl Zendaya. Then they get introduced to this hard, slow ass sci-fi movie, and then she's barely in. So they're not coming back for the sequel, dude. You know, even though she might be more in the sequel, but it's just like their introduction is just some shit they're not really into.
Yeah.
So I can see that like sending some people off, and that's another thing I find it interesting too. Like how you saying, like going into this movie. Maybe because I kind of have the prior knowledge of like this is based on the book, and the book is pretty big series, and I noticed in one of those mediums. I mean, one of these stories, they've made multiple attempts. They've made a movie about it. They've made TV shows about it. They've made a mini series about all this stuff. So I know it's a big universe and a big story. So I saw a lot of people surprised whether there's even going to be a sequel or I mean, like how you're saying, like the end kind of abrupt. In my head, it's like it's so much that there has to be 2 parts. So I was surprised that a lot of people did not know whether a sequel will be coming out, and maybe it didn't do as good financially. I haven't seen like the stats. Maybe it didn't do as good financially that for them to secure like a sequel right away.
That was the fear.
Oh, okay.
That a lot of people had is just due to our current climate with with the pandemic and stuff. People, some people still being afraid to go out to the movies and actually see something, and then also just kind of with the rise of same day releases on streaming services.
Yeah.
There was a big question on if it was going to bring in enough money.
Did it?
Apparently
okay, cool.
it was a box office
success.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm surprised. I'm actually really surprised.
Yeah.
Because while I was watching, I was just like, I can't see the mainstream people really liking this movie like that.
Yeah, and that's like kind of like Lord of the Rings. You'd have to be a nerd.
Yeah,
a little bit of a nerd, and I consider myself a little bit of a nerd.
But Lord of the Rings kind of broke out though for some reason.
It did. Yeah,
it's like a surprise hit in a way.
But I feel like for this one you gotta be a nerd.
Yeah.
Which I consider myself, a little bit of a nerd. To want to go see it. So I guess that was the fear is like, oh, are people gonna really gonna go watch this like really heavy sci-fi movie. But yeah, apparently it did really well.
Okay.
They've already secured like the part 2.
Thank God.
Yeah, because I can't wait to see what they do with it.
I'm really excited. You know, I think. Sorry to cut you off, dude. Like, I think this took. If this ends well, like if they keep the same director, and which I'm pretty sure they will, and kind of keep kind of the same look, and establish more of the story, I I think this could take the energy of what the Disney Star Wars could have been, like an actual fleshed out storyline. But I guess this kind of has the upper hand of being based on the story already. But it's like, actually have like a series you could follow to actually make sense and being satisfying, hopefully, by the end, where the Disney sequel kind of fuck up, and because they have so many directors and so many shit happening that each movie contradicts itself, So it's not like a streamlined storyline. It's kind of hard to follow. But with this one, if they kind of keep going with this same pace, yeah, it'll be really good. I think it'll be like a good, like, maybe on the same level as Lord of the Rings stuff, but it could be like kind of like a Lord of the Rings-esque type story of like epic tales with each movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm super excited for that. So, and with that, I could give my rating like.
Okay.
I was bouncing between 9 and 8, and I'll give it a 9. Giant, what's it called? Sandworm anus mounts out of 10. You ever notice like the sandworms? Their mouth look like big ass buttholes, dude. Didn't they?
The forbidden butthole.
Yo, that's exactly what Willie P said.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. I'll show you.
Yeah. So you want to elaborate on it? I mean,
yeah,
you kind of already spoke on it.
Yeah. So the reason 9, because I just really like the story. I think it does a good job blending sci-fi and like the royal Game of Thrones type of conspiracy and shit going on. I really like the world building. I love the world building so much that I want to see more from this universe, and they do a good job of making it seem grounded in their universe, like with the technology. Good job on the acting from everybody, especially Oscar Isaac. I think he did a great job.
Oh yeah.
Even Timothy, like at first I was kind of like iffy on his acting in the beginning. But towards the middle and the end, it made sense why he's the way he is. Especially at the scene where he's like freaking out about the vision and yell at his mom with the voice. That was actually kind of scary. I didn't expect that. I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense why, because they were showing him as kind of like timid. So that scene hits very hard, because that's where it shows like, okay, he has to take on the battle now, the war. And he has to accept that, and from there on, you kind of see a shift in his character because he becomes more of a leader. What else? The action scenes were really good. Like it's one of those, like, once it's kind of slow, but once the action started, it kind of kept up from the second act. And even when the third act slows down, there's still stuff happening to keep you tense. The very first sandworm scene was very cool. That was really cool. The whole setup and everything. It shows like you don't need characters. I mean, you don't need fucking cameras like cutting up here and there. You just have like just tension from people being rescued. Yeah. Then the reason it stays at 9 is because like the last act, it does slow down, and I could see. Like I said, I can't recommend this for a lot of people. I could see some people just thinking it's too heavy, or it's too slow, and kind of jumping out, or like I don't know what's going on, because it started it started like in the middle of a conflict, and I think a lot of wider audiences, they would like exposition, but I think for people like us, we don't always need exposition because you kind of follow a story. And I'm hoping the sequel comes out, because the way it ends, I like the ending, but it is an ending that it's not standalone. So like you kind of need to see a sequel.
Right.
So,
exactly. Yeah. I'll go ahead and I'll do you one better.
Oh, okay.
I'll give you 9.5
Oh, okay.
False poison teeth.
Oh.
At 10.
Oh, this is the highest rated movie so far, right?
Is it?
I think Suicide Squad was the highest before this.
Was a 9?
I think so.
Yeah, I think just in terms of being a movie, it did so many things right. Like you said, the world building was fantastic. As far as the story goes, them just like pulling everything that was available to them from the source material and using it all to just really create a very active. It doesn't seem like, oh, we created this for the story, we created this for the story, and now they're gonna clash with each other. Like, no, it seemed like very well thought out. Like, if this wasn't something that we were observing and thrown into the middle to, would be active without our knowledge.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Without there being a story to follow. Yeah, we could see that kind of environment just existing.
Yeah.
And visually, just super impressive. Auditorily, just watching it, I knew if I was in the theater with those subwoofers going, like, goddamn, like, I could just tell it was from a sound design standpoint, just a masterpiece. Just from the speakers I was listening to it on, I was like, man, I wish I had gone to the theater and heard this on the theater speakers. Because I can already tell it's great, and I could just imagine how great it sounds when you're in the theater with all that going on. I think a lot of the actors just did a great job embodying their roles, kind of playing their parts. I can't really think of anyone who played their character a little weak. It just, they all seemed like they understood their characters. They went for it. And just kind of everyone hit. I didn't think anyone was weak in their performance. The sandworms looked cool.
Yeah.
It just, them showing the sheer size of just how big those things are. They're insanely huge.
So keep going.
Like the first scene where you actually see them get like swallowed by it, I was like, these are way bigger than I initially thought. It's I don't know. Like I keep talking about the sets. The sets are amazing. The CGI is great. The battle.
The siege scene?
Yeah, the siege looked fantastic. It just overall, it was amazing. It was amazing.
So why the 0.5 off?
0.5 off. I guess for the pacing.
Okay.
I'd say, like I said, even though a lot of it was necessary, I'd say the pacing was a little slow. And then also kind of like deceptive marketing.
Oh, okay.
I get that it's a smart marketing strategy, but it seemed a little deceptive.
Yeah.
So that would be the 2 points that probably keep it. Keep it from like a straight 10.
But yeah, definitely support this movie, and I think people should support this director because this guy, he's a fantastic director. He's been doing shit like for the longest, and I'm glad he's starting to get like bigger projects to put his stuff, for people to see. Definitely check out a movie called Enemy with Jake Gyllenhaal if you have the chance. That's one of like his early movies he did, and it's slower paced too, but the storytelling is very good. And that's how I was so surprised when you told me this movie was a financial success because 2049 Blade Runner, it flopped apparently, and that for me that was like maybe my third favorite movie of 2017 when it came out. And because have you seen that movie?
Yeah, I finally did, but I didn't see it until like this summer.
Oh, okay. See, I saw that in theaters, and it was amazing in theaters. So this guy knows how to make movies for theaters too. Yeah, definitely check out this guy. I feel like this is somebody a director we kind of need now. You know, like somebody, and he's able to do his own story and do it well, but he knows, kind of like early Christopher Nolan before gimmick kind of took over. He knows how to like pace things. He knows how to make simple things have so much weight. You know, just from pacing and making it grounded, and he seems like the director's director. You know, like the guy that's actually care about the artistry of movies and how it looks and stuff like that. But yeah, so I think people like this need more support, and yeah, and this movie too, I guess it, like I mentioned earlier, I was happy about the whole same day release and everything, but it's one of those movies like, damn, I kind of wish I saw in theaters like you know. But yeah, I cannot wait for the sequel. This makes me want to read the book, but at the same time, I'm like, let me wait, let me see the movie first, then maybe read the book, like I was saying, so I could see how it separates and stuff like that. But yeah, if this one of those movies like kind of like John Wick, where even if they make like a video game, I'll play it. If they make comic books, I'll try to follow. If they make cartoons, because the universe is so rich that you could do so much stuff, you know. And it's kind of like mature too, so you have the luxury to do more stuff compared to like Star Wars, which is still kind of family friendly. So like they can't, even though the Mandalorian is pushing the boundaries now, but they could only do so much, you know. With this, I feel like they could do more, and I can even see this being like a TV show, you know. Yeah, the stuff that's going. So I'm definitely excited.
Oh, definitely leave in the comments if you have read the book series.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And if you know, like how that differs from the movie. At least part 1. Don't ruin part 2.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Don't ruin part 2 for us yet. No spoilers, please. But yeah, no, I think that's about all we have for this episode.
All right. Leave us something.
Oh no, just like and subscribe.
Yeah, please
smash the fuck out of that like.
And please support this director.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right. See you in the next episode.
See you.
It want me feel real.
I can only think about your beautiful smile.
Anthony used to do this a lot.
Are you on with you? How do you feel?